I gotta say, I was just vomiting severely. I used one piece of toast, one Zofran, and one CBD rub directly on my back and stomach. I already feel better. Oh my God, do I feel better. The combo with that three really took it. Now I just got to try to hold down more toast and more food. But at the age of 31, I shouldn't have to be living like this because of somebody else's choices. I was living like this at age 7. I was living like this at age 9. I was living like this at age 12. I was living like this at age 14. I was living like this at age 16. I was living like this at age 19. I was living even worse than this at age 20. I was living dangerously close to death at age 21 to 23. I'm dying, seizing, starving, all different types of shit. And don't forget, at childhood, you got a neurological condition, stomach problem, esophagus problem, eating problems, food poisoning, parental supervision problems, problems with the mother drugging the son, different drugs that aren't being prescribed, like Epicac being overgiven. You just got all this other crazy stuff. You got side effects not being reported to doctors. You got made up mental illnesses being made up about physical illnesses. You got physical ailments that your son is suffering from, like bumping in the furniture, whacking his what do you call those wrists? When he walks by doorways and the doorknobs, his watches are breaking. His bed frame is whacking him in the shins. His muscles are just spazzing him. His leg is bouncing out of control, and you can't tell it to stop. Just all different types of nervous system problems after this overdose, as well as more and more and more druggings, weird stuff happening on Halloween, weird stuff happening before an adoption, like mother giving me pills and then me getting wicked fucked up off those pills at the age of like 7 years old, 10 years old, 12 years old. Whenever my, like at the adoption, I was 7. Halloween, I guess I was 7 to 12. 7 to 13. Every Halloween, I had some mystery illness that my mother would say she didn't want me going out trick or treating. My father and other people would say, no, no, every kid's going trick or treating, let him. She would get overruled. She would say, don't forget to take your medication. She would give me some medication. Then I would get sick about an hour later. My mother would tell me I can't go trick or treating because I'm sick, and then I would have to be stayed home and babied by my mother every Halloween, and it would just go away. It would be one Halloween I was pale and felt awful all of a sudden, another one I vomited nonstop, another one I felt sick to my stomach and I was pale. I was weak during a lot of them, and there was always medications administered right before I was supposed to go out trick-or-treating by my mother. My mother would call me and say, it's time to take your meds, and then I would get sick. That is not a coincidence, that many Halloweens in a row. My mother was drugging me. It's very clear. She even admitted to it. It's not like it's a secret. She said it's okay to give a child extra medication as a punishment. She made that statement. I asked my mother and father straight in front of them, did you give me extra Epicac as a punishment this day? Yes. She admitted that, yes, this happened. I knew it happened, but I needed her to admit this in front of witnesses. Then I asked her, do you think it's okay to give a child extra medication as a punishment? She said yes. My father said yes. My older sister said hell no, and her husband said hell no, and I say hell no. It's not okay to give a child extra medication as a punishment. It's not okay to take your child's medication. It's not okay to hit your child. It's not okay to neglect your child. It's not okay to move your child around so much while he's needing an education. It's not okay to hold your child back when it's not necessary to interfere with his education and ability to learn. It's not okay to put your own profits before your son's future. These things are not okay to do as a parent. What are the results of doing these things? Your son might die, suffer, get hurt, or even get killed. There's many things that could happen by making those choices with your little loved one. This is your son. You're trying to make them have a good future. You're not trying to destroy their lives. That is not your purpose. Your purpose as a father and a mother is not to try to harm your child, it's to make them better than you are. If you're not trying to make your child better than you, then you are not a good father. If you are trying to profit off your son, if you're trying to make him disabled for Social Security, if you're making up stories about him, that's going to cause harm, and you are doing the opposite of what your fatherly duty is. You know, your son is supposed to honor your father, but your father, to be a father and to be a mother, there are requirements. A mother isn't always the person who gave birth to you, as I know because I went through foster care and I got adopted. A father is and mother is somebody who fills the role of what a mother responsibilities are. So my mother and father, who I'm supposed to honor and I'm supposed to respect and who I'm supposed to bail out of trouble, would be the people who care most about my future and did their fatherly and motherly duties on my behalf. That is who my mother and father are. Well, my mother only did that 50% of the time. The other half of the time, she was trying to harm me, profit off me, or do collateral money damage. Like, oh, we don't want to pay for this, so let's take it out of the clothing fund. Yeah, Zach doesn't need clothing for 4 years in his program. We'll just leave him sit to drink, eat a can of Chef Boyardee while the kids go out clothing shopping every month. Meanwhile, everybody for 4 years makes fun of him about not having proper clothing because he hasn't gone shopping every month like every other kid does. I mean, you either bring your kid for a big shop twice a year and you actually let him pick out his clothing, go to different. But no, this was not the concern of my father. My father did not have a concern about making sure that his son looked presentable and was properly clothed in an orphanage program and in a sped school. He did not care one bit how I looked. And we're not thinking about like church clothes. My father might think that church, oh, I bought him plenty of sports jackets and button up shirts. No, those aren't even like allowed to be worn to school. Like that, like they have. I see a lot of old people with this fucked up rhetoric. I'll give you an example. Somebody bought me a winter coat one time. They gave it to me on a Christmas gift. I said, "Oh, this is beautiful. I love it. I'm going to wear it. I'm going to wear it all the time. Thank you." And then the person said, "But one rule. You have to keep it in my house and you can't take it out of the house because I don't want anybody stealing it." So I thought about it for a second and I told him he could keep his jacket. He said, "What?" I said, "What good is a snow jacket that's meant for outside? This is a winter snow jacket that you can't wear outside. I'm supposed to wear this in the heat. I'm supposed to wear a snow jacket for below zero in a warm house. I'm never going to be wearing this stuff. I'll just be looking at it on the hanger. So keep it. Make a nice frame for it. Hang it on the wall. I don't care. If I can't wear it outside the house, then it doesn't matter." Well, my father has a lot of that same, what I call fool's logic. They come up with these one, like, oh, I'm going to give you a $300 jacket. It's a winter jacket for sub-zero conditions, but I don't want you wearing it outside the house because I don't want any of those kids stealing it. So I'm only allowed to wear it indoors in your house. Not out front, not outside, not at the neighbor's house, not up the street. No. Only indoors am I allowed to wear this winter jacket. Now, the example I was given is not from my father and mother. It's from a friend of mine. He really did buy me a winter jacket and tell me I can't wear it outside. But this is something that my mother and father are notorious for. Fool's logic. You do something nice, but then you make so many strings attached that it becomes impossible for the person. I mean, it's just such a headache and it's so overwhelming that it's no longer a reward. It's no longer fun. It's no longer good. Like if somebody bought you a jacket because of sub-zero conditions, oh my God, thank you so much. You're a good person. But I'm not allowed to wear it outside. Well, that sure makes it difficult, doesn't it? That makes it a shitty gift now, doesn't it? You get to look at it while you're freezing outside. You get to know you have a warm jacket hanging up in a closet, but you're not allowed to wear it outside. See, these little, I call them fool's logic nuggets. They're fool's logic And they're little nuggets that are thrown in there, where if you just try to look through the context and you actually put it to practice, it doesn't work. And you see this a lot with the Republicans today as well. They make statements that are fool's logic, but then when you put it into practice, they don't work. They obviously do not work. Like, let's talk about the lottery for a second. The New Hampshire lottery. They say they give money to the schools, right? So you would think the schools have a big budget to pay their teachers, right? Actually, no. For every $3 the lottery gives to a school, $4 is pulled out of funding from taxpayers. Yes, if the lottery donates 10 grand to a school, the taxpayers and the town then suck something like 11 to 12 grand out of their funding. The lottery actually does not help the schools. A lot of times the lottery allows them to lose funding. Then when the lottery moves their money someplace else, the school does not get their taxpayer funding back for years on end. You also got libraries closing. So you say that you don't want your child picking up a book about sex. Let's say there's a teenage book talking about puberty, and you don't want your 6-year-old seeing that bullshit. Well, there is an adult, teenager, and child section. If your child is unattended in a library, going to the adult or teenager section, whose fault is that really? Number two is most children have phones today. They can Google this stuff and get way worse than what's in the library. So you're complaining at a library for containing a book. Meanwhile, your son has a cell phone in his pocket that contains a billion things worse than that book you're talking about. But yet people want to close the libraries where college students and the poor utilize. I mean, we can't afford $300 books. You think that the people living check to check can afford to buy a one-time use $300 book? No, they go to the library and they read the book at the library, and then they pass their exam. You also got students, people like me, you got homeless people who rely on the library to know how to go to court or how to find another job or use the computers to get a job. I mean, everything's online nowadays, but not everybody has money for a computer. And because of that, at least 20% of the population relies on the library's computers to fill out paperwork when told to go online. When you go to court, when you try to fill out for a job, if you try to go to college, if you try to do anything nowadays, you're going to be directed online. Well, if you don't have a home computer, not everything can be done on a phone. I've tried to apply for jobs before and the phone won't let me because the software is designed to be done on a computer and the phone doesn't have the proper software to run it. Now, most jobs will run on the phone, but some will not, and you have to go to the library to fill out the paperwork. So, these catch-22s in society are becoming barriers for the poor to become just regular people who maybe rent an apartment. Because yes, rent is so high that you need to have a college degree just to live indoors today. Yes, I'm not even kidding. Essential service jobs like food industry or gas stations or liquor stores, apparently, what I don't believe in, or police officers, even though they have a good union, or teachers. These people are highly, highly underpaid. Now, the police officers have a union, and they get paid in a different way. They get to get away with crimes. That's their bonus. They are invincible. They can run over a pedestrian, and maybe they get fired. Anybody else runs over or kills somebody on their job, and they're going to jail. But a cop can murder somebody, beat them to death, run them over, and he'll be lucky if he even gets fired. He's probably not even going to get fired. He'll probably get like a write-up. So that's what their bonus is. But how about the teachers? Where's their bonus? Where's their hard work? They went to college. How about the gas station attendant that deals with crazy fucks with talking about guns in their face and talking about how they need gas and all these oil companies cleaning up? I mean, I'm not asking for much. I'm just asking for the same wages that a gas station got and 1965 adjusted for inflation. A gas station attendant working in 1965 would be at least allowed to live in an apartment studio. But you got people working 40 hours a week who can't even afford to live in a studio at working at essential service jobs like gas stations. If it's so essential for this country to be running, if these people aren't allowed to be sick at home during a crisis like COVID, why are they the lowest paid in America if they're so essential? If they're the only places that have to stay open when this country is shutting down, then why are they the lowest paid? And why was it different when you adjust for inflation? Why did a person working 30 hours a week during 1965 still have money left over after paying his rent, heat, and he was able to get ends meet like a loaf of bread and some oatmeal to eat? I mean, that cannot be done on today's salary. If you take a $10 an hour job and you take your rent at $1,600, $1,400 for a studio, and you take your electric bill at anywhere from $1 to $300, then you take your food budget out of the equation, let's say you're on food stamps, and then you need transportation, what is now, let's say for me, $400 a month for transportation, but let's say you have a car and you get gasoline. Maybe yours is $100 a month. Add that all together and tell me how many hours at $10 an hour after taxes you would have to work to pay your bills. Your rent for the shittiest studio in the poorest town is $1,400. If you want to live in a place without black mold that doesn't have waterfalls coming in, a place without mushrooms coming in the floor, a place that has an actual bathroom, if you want a place like that, you're talking about 2 grand, but you can get a studio for 1,400. I mean, that's what the basic cost of living is at the lowest percentage in New Hampshire. If you want to get an apartment, you better have 1,400. You might be able to wait a gem, like if you can move in with your mother and stay at your mother's house, then you might be able to wait 3, 4 years looking around to find a gem for 1,300 or 1,200. But within those 4 years, the price is going to go up to about 1,400. Meanwhile, the apartment that was 1,400 will then be 1,600 anyways. So, whatever. But you might be able to find like a gem for $200 less or something if you were able to have a place to wait and save your money. But if you don't have a mama's house or a daddy's house, if you're not a daddy's boy, if you don't have help from your family, if you're all independent like I am, where you just get tossed a bone by a friend once in a blue moon, then it's a little different. I mean, I see so many people moving back with their parents. I mean, I knew teachers that were in their 40s that lived with their parents. I know people that are in their 60s that took over their parents' house. It's getting pretty bad out there where people are living in their parents' house till their 60s, and they're cops. These are police officers. These are teachers. These are respectable people in society living with mommy and daddy. You know why? Because it's the only way their salary allows them to live a decent life. If a lot of these people try to move out and live like me, like my parents want me to live, they would die instantly and end up in the woods. They would. They would. You can't live like that walking on the street having seizures with no transportation, no cars. Officers of the law wouldn't be able to get into work. Why? The taxis don't run on their hours. So they can't take a taxi, they can't get the bus. What are they going to do? They need a friend or their mommy again. So without friends or mommies or daddies, a lot of these people wouldn't survive. And that's why a teacher named Chris lived with his mother until she passed away and took over the house. That's why one of my teachers in, this was Brickhelm Road, named Tim, oh yeah, actually, same name as my brother, but Timmy, he lived with his mother till the day I never saw him again. And he was in his 40s, and he was a muscle lifting guy who was also a teacher. I met 2 officers of the law, Kevin and another one, I can't remember his name, that lived with their mommies and daddies. And I know this because I overhear conversations and I talk to people. I'm willing to have a conversation with people about my family and their family. What's your family like? Oh, that's nice. Oh, you have a loving mother and a loving father. Oh, oh, When you got evicted and you couldn't get an apartment, they opened you back with open arms and you were able to find another place and you didn't have to lose your job or nothing. Well, that's very nice. Very nice to have a family like that. If that was me, I would have lost my police officer job. Absolutely. Yeah. If it was me, I would be dead sick on the side of the road, having seizures, bleeding out on the ground, while my father's drinking a martini on the beach, laughing about how he fucked me and how much easy his life is thanks to me just allowing this to happen. Yeah, if I actually got the help I needed and we stayed in Westford, I don't think my father would be so happy right now. If my father actually lost the 12 grand and gave me the money he owed me, I don't think he would be happy that right now. I think if my father paid me back the money he owed me and just treated me like a son and actually used his money to enrich his son's life and make him a better person than himself. If my father had done these things, then he wouldn't be the party animal beach old man that he is today. When I mean by party animal, I mean old man party. See, when we get to different ages, a party means different things. When we're in our 20s, it's alcohol and drugs. When we get to our 30s and 40s, it's a birthday party or a surprise party with maybe a bottle of champagne or something. When we get to our 50s, it's an office party, alcohol, and some Christmas decorations. And when we get to our 50s, it's sex. You leave the party and you try to get laid. Party is about having sex. By the time you get to your 60s and 70s, a party is like a vacation. You go to a destination and you just drink and you fall asleep on a beach and you read a book and you go on your iPad and you listen to music that's calming. Or you go on your own private island and you swing in a hammock. Then when you get to your 80s, a party is just feeling good for a day. It's taking a Percocet and sitting on a beach. When you get to your 90s, a party is literally just knowing that you're alive and being moving. If you can walk down the street on a sunny day and you're not in pain, that is a good day. And then if you go to literally to see your family who you haven't seen in months because you've been in the home, that's a party for you. Yeah, they invite you to breakfast. Everybody's there. It's a whole party. Like when I was a child, I used to call him Grandpa, and we used to go to the club diner. It was like a party for him. Now, he was senile and didn't know where he was, but it was a gathering. He used to get out of the home once a month, maybe less, maybe once every 3 months, and go and get to be with the whole family. We'd all hug him. It would be like kind of like a birthday party type thing. Well, this is the best for a party when somebody reaches 90 to 100. People get together and you know who they are. So the version of what you call a good time, or I call it a party, but you can call it a good time if you want, changes through your ages. Well, right now my dad is about almost 90. He's in his 80s, but he's still on the vacation and go on the beach, drink a martini with a book in your hand, take a nap in a hammock, go to a private island, go to Rome, go to Bermuda. Go to Hawaii on a cruise, go drink on a cruise boat, meet random people on another cruise boat. That's where my father's at right now. He's at old man good times. But if my father had kept his fatherly duties and actually cared about his son's life and hoped that his son might be able to stay alive when he had to be on his own, if he prepared for this, I'm not so sure that my father actually would be having these old man parties, because a lot of it was because I wanted him to get out of trouble. I wanted to support him. I wanted to make things easy on him. I didn't want very much for clothing. I just wanted to go shopping at the program. Wouldn't go clothing shopping with the other kids. I really, I didn't want old lady jeans that I get made fun of. I didn't need any short shorts that go above my knee. I just really didn't need any of that. I was pretty easy going. When I was in New Mexico getting strangled by a black guy, even though I complained and tried to wake them up to what was going on, they didn't care until afterwards. When my father sued and kept all the lawsuit money and told me that he paid for me to get abused, he paid for that program to get rid of my attachment disorder. And because he paid so much money and that black guy strangled me, he's going to keep the money and use it for losses. He's going to use it for losses. He got what he paid for, yet he wants to recoup losses. Meanwhile, I'm the one who lost. I lost 2 years of education. I have PTSD. My mother's OD'd me prior to this. I've now don't have any medical care. I've now been food poisoned several times. I now am afraid of African Americans because they strangled me, choked me, and fed me poisonous food that made me sick for weeks, bedridden. They brought me to the middle of the woods to go play light tag with the other kids at midnight because there's a bear wandering around and this big African American wants to shoot him. You know, this African American smashed all of our fossils and belittled the other women's staff that were younger than him. All this, I lost. I lost out. So now, tell me, Dad, what did you lose? Now, you paid money to get me attached to you. You paid for that. That's what you agreed to pay for. Now, I am more attached to my father and mother than ever. So they got exactly what they paid for. I am the one who did not get what I deserved. I did not get told that I was going to be strangled. I don't think that anybody was allowed to poison me with the food that went bad and milk that was cheese and chunky. I don't think that choking a child until he's blue and cutting off his oxygen supply is actually appropriate behavior from an adult. So I am the one who lost. And how about the education? The teacher quit within 3 months and the staff were just trying to make up classes. That is not a passable education in any state. The education that I received in New Mexico is not considered an education, first year, second year, third year, fourth year education in any state. It's considered playing around in extracurricular activities. That's what they consider fossil hunting. Extracurricular activities. That's what I had in New Mexico. Extracurricular activities. That's it. No school, no lesson plan, none of that shit. It was extracurricular activities like fossil hunting, scavenger hunting, video games, camping, making soap. That's one I did many times. I did it in Chelmsford in one of my schools. I did it in New Mexico, and I did it in a couple programs. So I don't know what it is with soap making, but they want to teach all the kids how to make soap. All these disabled kids and orphans, they want to show them how to make soap. Anyways, that is the education I was getting. Extracurricular activities is all I got. That's it. So, did my father use that money to make up for the losses that he created? Now, I've lost on 2 years of education. Do you think he used that money to get a home tutor, maybe hire some type of nanny or something to watch me at home and catch me up? You think that he spent the money trying to look for the best private school? You think that he tried to do any of these things? You think he moved into a 2-bedroom apartment after maybe there was a problem with the school? No, he just threw me in he bought a house in a town that was supposedly had a rich school. That's it. He didn't even think about catching me up. He didn't think about that. No, just drop me in a public school. I've missed out on 3. I've redid first grade for a year, and I've missed out on total lessons for 2 years, and I've spent a whole year in Texas trying to figure out what level I'm at. Then I get moved to New Mexico. Then I moved more in Maine, but now I'm in Massachusetts in Chelmsford. I'm getting dropped off at the best high school. So they're going to be able to help me, right? Of course not. I'm 4 years behind every other kid in my class. They know stuff that I have no clue even exists. Of course not. No, I need to catch up. But my father doesn't care about me catching up. He's not even talking about the losses of education. He's not talking about me redoing first year. He's not talking about New Mexico. He's not talking about how he sold his house in Maine and added to it. He's not telling people about how I've missed so much education and I need a lot more education so I can go further with the education I'm getting. No, he's saying I'm mentally ill. I'm slow, I'm disabled, so nobody even bothers trying to catch me up. Instead, they just teach me less. Instead of trying to catch me up, teach me more so I can catch up to the other students, they decide to listen to my mother and father and teach me less. At this point, I also go into another school where it's just a scam school. They're just taking the money from the parents and leaving the kids in the classroom with toys. There is no actual school. There's no lesson plan, nothing. You bring in your Bionicles, your Yu-Gi-Oh cards, and your action figures. You go into the classroom downstairs, you play with your toys. You go play wiffle bat, you play with your toys. You go up to eat, you play with your toys. You get on the short bus and you go home. This is like, I don't know, fourth grade, third grade, and I'm playing with toys all year round. I tell my mother and father about this. They call the school. The school punishes me the following day. They tell me, they hold me in front of class. Then they tell everybody that they're going to sit in their chair for the day doing nothing because Zach told his parents what's going on. And then they stand me up, leave me. The teacher sits down, leaves the classroom in like 30 minutes to an hour, and then the classroom just goes to play on the floor again. We all just play on the floor. And everything goes back to normal. I go home. I try to tell my parents one more time that there's no classes, and they ignore me. I don't want to get punished again. My parents don't care that there's no classes at the school. They don't seem to want to talk to me about this. It's over with. I'm not doing classes. I get to play with toys. My parents approve of this. They are not seeming to even have a care in the world that there's no classes going on. And I'm getting punished at school. And they don't seem to care about that either. So, I just go on and then I move to the next school. Now, this school gets in trouble because all the kids missed out on an education. Not just me. All the kids missed out. So, a lot of those kids told their programs, their parents, and they all got together and complained, and the school got shut down for illegally stealing money. Yes, you can't do that big a scam with 14 children for multiple years, because this went on probably for another year after I left, I don't know, and not get caught. Not every parent is as stupid as mine. My parents would allow me to get a hot red poker up my ass by a stranger without flinching. If I came home telling them that I was raped, they'd probably tell the doctors it was a fantasy and a story. But other parents actually care about their children. They wouldn't want to see their children suffer. They wouldn't want to see their children bump into furniture. They wouldn't want to see their children miss out on a year of education. 1 year of missed education is a travesty. 4 years is a death sentence. Especially if nobody knows about it and your parents just want to blame the child. Victim blame, victim blame, victim blame. It solves everything, right? Fuck that shit.